Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to our channel once again. Raila Odinga today attended a burial ceremony in Siaya County. And I followed that event very closely for 3 or 4 main reasons. Number one, that was going to be the first public appearance Raila Odinga was going to make after William Ruto appointed ODM members to his cabinet. I really wanted to hear Raila Odinga's message to the people.
But then you say that if you want to take some of our experts and get into your government, you release them to join your government and work in accordance with the ethics of our party, ODM and Azimio.
Number two, Raila Odinga was going to be hosted by none other than the Siaya governor, James Orengo. James Orengo is one of the biggest critics of the move by William Ruto to appoint or to nominate ODM members to his cabinet.
And I'm urging everybody that joining Ruto is a disaster, is an abomination. It cannot work. And nobody is going to tell us. They when you are saying Ruto must go. When we say Ruto must go with all his people. And the entire government must go. Nobody is going to remain there.
And importantly, number three, I also wanted to hear the tone of the speeches, especially by ODM leaders who accompanied Raila Odinga.
So the young people, the Gen Z, are speaking your language today. They are talking about corruption that is eating their future. They are talking about inclusivity. They are talking about tribalism. They want to be tribeless. We want one Kenya, your language. They are talking about a future that must guarantee prosperity for all. Again, your language. And so we are with you. And with your demand, we are hoping that before we get to the table to talk, that they will be able to release all those who are in police. And they should tell us those who have killed the young people who have died. Your Excellency, we are with you. If anybody...
And lastly, I wanted to get the feeling of the ground, the reaction of the ground to Raila Odinga and indeed to James Orengo. So in this video, I want us to do critical analysis about Raila Odinga's speech today in Siaya. But before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to dive in. But before I dive in, I also want to take this opportunity to thank the following people. You are seeing their names on the screen there for the coffee which they sent to me earlier today. I'm so grateful because it goes a long way in supporting the channel. You can also do the same using the numbers on the screen there. Ladies and gentlemen, let us dive in. First of all, let us begin by listening to the speech by Raila Odinga during that burial ceremony before I dissect for you the speech which Raila Odinga delivered to Kenyans.
And I want to say this so that it can be understood properly. Because the media keep on all the time misinterpreting what you've been saying. You said it so many times clearly that Kenya requires a national convention. You want to have a national convention that people of Kenya or their representatives will come together to talk constructively about problems which are facing our country today. Kenya is at a critical juncture. We either move forward or we perish. Because we don't want to perish, we need that conversation. And that is what I had proposed, that we must have this conversation that take cognizance of the demographic profile of our nation. And that there are several issues that need to be discussed at that convention. But I've also said that there matters precedence. issues that must be dealt with first before that convention can be heard. This includes, number one, compensation for the families of the victims of violence last year and this year. Two, paying of all the hospital medical bills of the victims of police violence of last year. Number three is a release of all people who have been arrested and are in police custody. Number four is the dropping of all the pending charges which are pending in courts. Number five is the sacking and prosecution of all police officers who have been involved in criminal violence against innocent Kenyans who are actually exercising their rights as enshrined in the Constitution. And then we said that once that has been done, then people will sit down and dialogue. And we've also actually come up with what that dialogue should be about. The issues that have been raised by Gen Zs are not new issues. There are similar issues which we raised last time, even last year we were on the streets. We talked about unemployment in our country. We talked about high cost of living in our country. We talked about corruption, rampant corruption in the country. We talked about tribalism and ethnicity, discrimination in our country. And then we talked about management of debt in the country. These are critical issues that need to be discussed. But thirdly is the issue of governance. We have a new constitution, but we are not actually following that constitution. There are issues which were pending. Kenyans met at Bomas of Kenya and deliberated for a very, very long time and came up with a very, very progressive constitution. That constitution was bastardized to a certain extent during the so-called Naivasha process. We must go back to the Bomas draft constitution, put it back on the table, and see what needs to be cleaned up so that we can have a progressive constitution. So you said, therefore, that it's on the basis of that kind of elaborate process that we can then talk about a government of national unity. But then you say that if you want to take some of our experts and get into your government, we release them to join your government and work in accordance with the ethics of our party, ODM and Azimio.
Ladies and gentlemen, from that speech by Raila Odinga, two things are very clear. The first thing is structured dialogue. The truth is Raila Odinga and his party, ODM party, is going to work with William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza government. That is the fact. But there is the element of structured dialogue. James Orengo also alluded to it. In fact, Raila Odinga is also talking of the national dialogue, which they want to be structured. So I don't know how they are going to maneuver. But even Orengo, today, if you listen to his speech closely, he kind of supported the move to appoint those ODM members. But the only problem is the structured dialogue. The second thing which I also picked from there is that Raila Odinga made it very clear that the party released those members to go and work or support William Ruto because they are Kenyans. As a matter of fact, it is very clear that there is no way Joho, Oparanya, Wandai, and Mbadi, there's no way all of them can just decide, Sisi, we are going to work with Ruto. They were released. But a few things are also very clear from Raila Odinga's speech today. The first thing is the dilemma Raila Odinga is finding himself in. And that's why he's talking of structured dialogue. There is the parliamentary leadership. What is going to happen today, for example, if ODM party and UDA for that matter were to take a pen and a paper and sign some working agreement, what do you think is going to happen? Someone is going to go to court, clearly, to stop that. Because by signing that document, it's going to mean that someone will challenge the parliamentary leadership, especially on the side of Azimio. ODM party today in the Republic of Kenya is the minority party, which means they have the minority leader, minority whip. They have I think they also chair PAC and PIC, I think, Parliamentary Investment Committee, those two committees, and also there are certain committees which are reserved for them. If they agree to sign, it would mean they are working together, which means it would be interpreted to mean they are part of majority. That is the dilemma Raila Odinga is finding himself in. In fact, I'm now starting to think that the reason why Sifuna spoke the way he spoke the other day is as a result of that dilemma. They don't want to accept that we are working with the government, but the four gentlemen have gone there as individuals because constitutionally they'll be required to resign from the party. But at what stage? Someone like Wandai will be forced to resign after the vetting, so that if parliamentarians will say, Wandai, you are not fit, then he can easily come back to his seat. So that is one of the things I picked from there, that there is that parliamentary leadership issue, which is going to really give them headache. Number two, Raila Odinga also addressed the issue of betrayal. That, as we have not, we are still standing with what we stood for then, and we are still standing by it now. But the ground was really with Raila Odinga. Of course, Siaya is his home county. You expect that. But I think Raila Odinga's biggest worry is also the betrayal tagger. And of course, from his speech, it is also very clear that Raila Odinga is trying to balance. There are these Gen Z demands which they placed on the table. Raila Odinga is also talking about them, because he was being accused of betraying the cause. That these Gen Zs had decided Ruto must go, then he comes to save William Ruto. And while he was doing that, while Ruto was appointing his members to the cabinet, Kenyans are still in hospital with huge hospital bills. Some are still nursing injuries. There are those who lost their lives. Nobody's talking about the compensation. So he also addressed that. And of course, the most important thing for me is the police brutality. And I want to pay very close. And in fact, I'll be following this to see whether those police officers would actually be dragged to court. The ones who are responsible for causing deaths and for causing injuries. Because Raila Odinga is insisting on them being served justice. I don't know what you think, but that's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.